What anchors a community? Schools, businesses, churches, parks. But what about places that have lost a lot of those things, where schools have merged, businesses have shut down? A town in the Champlain Valley has converted an old garage into a hub for art, meetings, in short, community. And we take a visit to a community center on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day is provided by Renew Architecture and Design, designing camps, custom homes, and more throughout NCPR's listening region. Details at renewarchitecture.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Tuesday, July 25th. First up, green groups that want more attention to fighting climate change see an opportunity this summer. They're pressing Governor Kathy Hochul and the state assembly to adopt two measures that they say would help ease extreme weather, like we're having this summer and will continue to have in the future. Karen DeWitt reports from Albany.
In addition to the record-breaking heat waves across much of the world, here in the Northeast, excessive rainfall and the resultant flooding killed one New Yorker. Then there's been days of unhealthy air warnings due to toxic smoke from Canadian wildfires. All the bad weather follows a recently concluded legislative session that saw little action in its final weeks on combating climate change. The Senate sponsor of one of the bills, Senator Liz Krueger, says the state and the world can't wait to make changes any longer.
We're still dominantly dependent on oil and gas, and we have to get off it as fast as possible. So when people say there's not a rush, look out your window. Read the weather reports coming in from around the world.
Krueger's bill is known as the Home Energy Affordable Transactions Act, or HEAT New York. It would end the policy of ratepayers subsidizing the cost of expanding and maintaining existing gas lines. The senator says it would also ease rapidly rising gas bills. It would cap rates for middle and low-income customers at 6% of a household's total income.
This bill also will save low and middle-income New York families up to $75 every month on their energy bills, and that's more money that they need for food and rent and medicine.
The measure passed in the Senate in June, but it stalled in the state assembly, which adjourned for the year without voting on it. The 2023 state budget already includes a ban on gas hookups in new buildings starting in 2026 and a ban on new gas appliances over the next decade. Liz Moran with Earth Justice says without the HEAT New York Act, though, utility ratepayers will have to shoulder too much of the cost of that transition.
Inaction on the climate crisis is unacceptable. It is disrupting the everyday lives of New Yorkers. The question really should be, how can we afford to stay on this system?
Opponents, including many of the major companies in the fossil fuel industry, say the bill would prevent gas companies from repairing or modernizing existing gas lines, and it would effectively ban natural gas service for entire neighborhoods. Another bill that passed in the Senate but not in the Assembly is known as the Climate Change Superfund Act. It would require fossil fuel companies to collectively pay $3 billion a year for the next quarter century to help fund the infrastructure projects needed to alleviate climate change effects, including an estimated $52 billion to shore up New York Harbor alone. The money could also be used to make needed upgrades to the power grid, to connect homes and businesses with green energy sources. Blair Horner with the New York Public Interest Research Group says Governor Hochul has announced in recent days that the state will finance $500 million for community projects to lessen the impacts of flooding. And the governor said the damage from most recent floods in parts of the state will cost $50 million to repair.
The state has to pay those bills. The question is, who is going to be picking up the tab on the other end? And right now, it's the average taxpayer. If the legislation passes, it'll be the oil companies.
Horner says the Climate Change Superfund measure would be the first of its kind in the nation, and some lawmakers have been initially resistant. He says supporters expect that attitude to change, though, as climate change effects and costs continue to grow. In Albany, I'm Karen DeWitt.
There are community centers all across the North Country. But it takes more than just a building to create a deeper sense of community. In a little hamlet in the Champlain Valley, folks turned an old garage into a gathering spot for artists, craftspeople, and the public. Emily Russell takes us on a tour of Whitcomb's in the Essex County town of Whallonsburg.
Whallonsburg is a tiny community a few miles west of Lake Champlain. There are just 2 buildings in the center of town. One is the Grange, a big red barn that hosts concerts, movies, and lectures. The other is Whitcomb's, a smaller single-story building. Half of it is blue with white trim. The other half is white with blue trim. On a warm, sunny day, Mary Nell Bachman takes me on a tour inside.
This was the first part we actually finished. Was the blacksmith shop.
A blacksmith shop. Every surface in here is covered with metal tools and other knickknacks. Metal fish dangle on thin lines from the ceiling. The blacksmith, Mark Van Duzer, isn't in today, but Bachman says the welding and other work he does in here is unique.
You know, it's that combination of art, function, and I don't know, what do you call what Mark does? It's like whimsy that is just feels so right in this space.
Whitcomb's is part maker space, part retail shop, part community center. The building has been here for more than a century. It was an old gas station and garage. But more recently, it's sat empty. So the Whallonsburg Grange Association, the nonprofit that Bachman manages, bought the property in early 2019 and began renovating it.
It's a building that, had just people working in it from the very beginning. So that was what we really thought. Let's go back to its roots.
The inside of the building is basically done, but a crew of volunteers is out back building a deck. That's where I meet Joe DiNapoli. He says Whitcomb's has been busy like this, folks working all over the property since renovations began.
These trucks pull in with, equipment, and they come out and they go crazy on this place and turned it into what it is.
DiNapoli is a local potter. He's got a studio at Whitcomb's. He also does a lot of the gardening around the property. He used to just work from home, but DiNapoli says coming to Whitcomb's has been a good change of pace for him.
The social thing is very good for my mental health. It gets me out of the house, and it's 5 miles away, so it's a very short commute, and delightful people here.
Along with the blacksmith shop and pottery studio, there are 2 woodworking companies that work out of Whitcomb's. There's also a retail shop in the front called Kit and Sill Studio.
It's just a dream come true, this space.
That's owner Teddy Rogers. On this day, sunlight is streaming through the front windows of her shop. There are glass display boxes of handmade jewelry, stacks of locally made soaps and balms, and everywhere you turn, there are bouquets of dried and fresh flowers. Rogers is a floral and jewelry designer. She also manages Whitcomb's. She says being a part of this space is really special.
All of these different artisans working together collectively. We all have our own space, so we don't have to work that closely together, which we like. But there's also like that camaraderie and collaboration when we do want that.
You can see that happening here today. The folks out back building the deck. There's someone working up on the roof. Everyone here at Whitcomb's seems to be working towards a common goal, to create and sustain this place that's now at the heart of their community. In the center of the building is a literal space for community. A couple of velvet armchairs face a wood stove, and local art lines the walls. Mary Nell Bachman says this room provides a more intimate setting for community events.
In here, we knew part of it was having a smaller space than what the Grange is. The Grange is a big, great place for larger gatherings, this full stage, big sound system, movies, all of that. But this is the place where small things happen.
There are music jams on Thursdays, monthly storytelling events, classes taught in here from time to time. The final stop on our tour is out back behind Whitcomb's. Bachman walks me to the edge of the Boquet River. There are benches along the riverbank and new steps leading down to the water.
So we built this last year. We haven't finished it yet. We're just, the steps are in, but it will eventually, not eventually, it will be very soon actually, there'll be a whole river walk. You can actually go down and kind of circle back up here.
Standing here on the bank of the Boquet River is a reminder of how enduring this place is. The economy here has dwindled. Many young people have moved away. But the folks that are here are breathing new life into a place that had been left behind. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio, Whallonsburg.
You can find great pictures of Whitcomb's and the people working at and on it on our website, ncpr.org. We have more news there all the time, of course, ncpr.org. Music today by I Am Snow Angel of Lake Placid and Mark Corey of Watertown. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.